Hey guys, it's a beautiful fall day. I've been riding around in the gravel trails, a little bit of neighborhoods here with the new Model R from the Electric Bike Company. This is an exciting product for me because I really like their Model X and Model Y. They're very affordable, like $16.99. One's sort of a high step cantilever, the other one's more of a step through. They're great bikes, offer really good value, and they let you select the color and add a bunch of accessories like a front basket, a rear rack, which you see here. That's actually not included with the Model R. The Model R is $500 more, so it's $21.99, and it's got these bigger tires. It's one of the first things you'll notice. These are 26x3, so they're like plus size tires, and that gives you a little bit more float and cushion and stability. A lot of electric bikes have moved in this direction of larger tires, whether it's the full like fat tires that are 4 inches wide with the tread and you can go through sand and snow, or something like this that's a little bit more, gravel path oriented. It's going to float a little bit better in soft grass, which we have today. It's rained recently, so it's still doing okay, but this is like a really good balance, something that's going to give you comfort. Of course, it does bring a little bit more weight than a traditional like narrower tire like 2.125. Remember, this is 3-inch, so most tires may be 1.75 on traditional bicycles, but because you have an awesome electric motor back here, the additional weight and drag and friction of a bigger tire is less of an issue. So, e-bikes tend to have a nice comfortable saddle like this, some bigger tires, maybe suspension, which we also see up here. I think the Electric Bike Company has done a great job designing and then accessorizing this bike. Unlike many of their other products, like the Model X, it's their high step. This has an integrated battery, so it's not tacked on to the frame. Now, they did not add bottle cage bosses, but you can see they've got this optional cup holder thing that sort of, balances depending on how you're steering the bike, and that's neat, depending on the weight of the beverage and also the size of your bottle. It has some compromises, but it's a solution, right? These guys are all about finding good solutions. And the other product I keep talking about, the Model Y, it uses a basket battery. Now, that's pretty hidden. It looks really nice aesthetically, and it gives you a place to carry some of your, maybe a pet or some cargo or something if you don't want to use panniers like we have over there for a rear rack setup. So it's nice, and it's a really visually appealing setup, but then you're adding weight to the front of the bike. So this one is actually probably the most balanced and sleek because you've got that battery weight, about 7.5 pounds right there, low and center on the frame, right where you want it. And the motor back here, 8 or 9 pounds. It kind of balances out that suspension fork, which does come with this, and it is color matched. So we're looking at the white one here, kind of a glossy white. They also have gloss black and gloss red, and those are like the stock colors. You don't have to pay extra for those. And the fork is color matched. That's really cool. You'll notice that they've also got these black spokes, black rims. A lot of the other hardware elements, this adjustable angle stem, it's all black. Really nicely done. Oversized, really wide handlebar steel, vibration dampening. So when you pair this saddle, the handlebar length, and just how it's set up and a little bit more upright with that stem, and then you add a 80mm travel suspension fork. This is just a spring fork. It's not the fanciest thing in the world, but they do have lockout and kind of compression adjust here, so you can dial it back a little bit here at clicking. So it's not just on and off. It's like you can kind of set this based on how much travel you want to get. You can preload the spring. So if you're a heavier individual, you can tighten the spring down a little bit so you're not just like bouncing all over the place. That's nice. Like, that's a really good setup. We got quick release up here, and it's a sturdier setup. Same thing with the disc brakes here, 180mm with quad piston calipers, Tektro Dorado. This is a nice upgrade. I mean, look how nice this looks. It's got the little ball at the end, and it has motor inhibitor as well. So in addition to getting the physical stopping power, quad piston front and rear, with those thicker rotors, you're also getting, a nice fancier electronic system that's very responsive. You don't have to worry about fighting the motor, and it is a fairly powerful motor. It offers up to 60 Newton meters of torque, 500 to 1250 watt output, and that's because this has a higher amp controller. So this really is, it's sort of a stronger bike than the Model X or Y. They're using a lot of similar parts. It says that MX US motor. Physically, it's very similar, but it's actually being driven at a higher power level because of the way they've set up the controller. Again, the controller is kind of hidden and everything, but they are using the same 12 magnet cadence sensor right there, and it's a sealed design, so it's less vulnerable to getting kicked, partially based on where it's positioned here, but also the magnets aren't exposed. It just looks really nice. It works really well. Cadence sensors aren't quite as dynamic as like a multi-sensor or a torque sensor, but they don't require that you work as hard either. You move those cranks and then the motor kicks in, and depending on the level of assist, you're going to get more or less power and a higher or lower maximum speed. This is set up as a class 2 electric bike. It goes 20 miles per hour, 32 kilometers per hour, and it's got, you know, the adjustment buttons over here and a trigger throttle over here. So if you're someone like me with sensitive knees and you're like, oh, you know, I got to get that cadence sensor, you know, activated, and those first couple of strokes or that half stroke, you're applying more pressure because, again, it's not a torque sensor. It's a little bit simpler than that. But with the throttle, you don't have to worry about it. You can just ease in with the throttle and then pedal in a relaxed sort of way, and the bike just takes you. My biggest complaint about this bike is that it's kind of small. It's like 15.5 inches from here to here. That's my seat tube measurement. It's very approachable, you know, low step design. The saddle can actually go really low. That's minimum saddle height. So if you're the kind of person who wants to sit on the saddle, put your feet on the ground, and feel confident, you can with this bike. I was told that you can even get it with 24-inch wheels instead of 26, so that would lower the frame closer to the ground, make it even more approachable. They said people as short as 4'8" could be comfortably standing over and riding this bike, which is pretty impressive. A drawback of that wheel size is that you'll have a higher attack angle on those tires. They won't have as much air volume, which provides some comfort, but they will be a bit stronger. And it's a really unique option considering this frame only comes in one size. So they changed the wheels instead of the frame. But if you're a taller individual, you know, I'm 5'9". I'm not the tallest guy. I'm kind of average, I guess. Well, this seat post, it's only 250 millimeters long. So it stops like right about here. I have it at like the maximum height that it's capable of right now, and that's not enough for me to get like really satisfying full pedal strokes, that full leg extension that I look for. Now it is 30.4 millimeters. It's fairly standard tubing size. You can always replace this, and then you got to get maybe a different seat clamp, which would be nice. This is kind of a basic part. Right now in the bicycle industry, there's a little bit of a shortage because bikes have been so popular, and so some companies are sort of opting for like whatever they can get their hands on. I don't want to be too hard on the electric bike company. It's not a deal killer, and you could probably find a seat post aftermarket, or you can get the suspension seat post from them, and I think they offer like a little shim, and then you'd have like a full suspension feel. You got suspension up front, and then right there you're going to get your back and neck, you know, that comfortable feel. They're not going to be jarred around as much if you are going on bumpier terrain. And then you combine that with the tires, which have a pretty wide range, tire pressure range here, 40 to 65 PSI. These tires are really great. They've got the reflective sidewall stripes, so you've got a little bit more visibility. And if you've got a white frame like this, you're going to be highly visible as well. And then they're very puncture resistant. So they've got like 3 millimeters of extra rubber here that's going to help keep thorns and glass from causing you problems. Of course, the lights. Now, the headlight, the way that it's mounted, in some ways it's good because it's not mounted on the arch of that suspension, which is unsprung. It's going to bounce all around. The rest of the bike is going to ride a little bit smoother. So it's nice. They got it up higher. It's in good position. But because it's on the steer tube, see, it doesn't point the direction that you're actually steering the bike. And that's the same thing if you get the optional basket upgrade on the front. You kind of move the light forward, mount it on the basket. Same thing. It just sort of points in the general direction of the bike, but it's not quite as dynamic. These rear lights are really cool. They're 3 LED. You can see them from the side because they're sort of cut out. And I think the same thing for the headlights. Got a little bit of a nice window on the side. And then if you get this optional rear rack, you got this Star Union light as well. So they really do a good job in terms of highlights and accents. And I think they also do a good job of not overdoing it. You don't see tons of branding on this. It's sort of minimalist. And I think it's elegant, it's nice, it's simple. These guys are based in Newport Beach, California. The founder's a really nice guy, and he's hiring all these local people who help build the bikes and kind of assemble the accessories that you want, and then they spoke all the wheels themselves, and that's part of the reason they match. And they can do such a nice job, and then they can custom color everything from the frame to the fork that optional front basket. They can do the mesh as well as the outer structural portion of that basket. They can do the rear rack. I mean, like, everything can be color coordinated, and they can do some really fancy stuff. I mean, I've seen some of the designs and colors, whether it's like metallic or sort of that color changing paint. My aunt actually got one of these bikes recently, and she you know, she has the basket one color and the frame another, and then the rear rack, it's like the whole thing looks really nice. And she's got like a flower sort of pannier in the rear. This is extra. They're using Basil bags. Very nice. Again, a little reflective accent, and it's got the MIK or MIK interface that works really well. So if you just sort of drape the bag over and then set it down like that and press, see, it locks onto the bike. And then you've got this little key. You can stick it in there like this, and then push and lift back up, and the bags come with you. So if you're someone who's a commuter, this bike actually works really well. Now it's the Model R, right? Kind of like rugged, and they advertise it as being like kind of trail worthy. To me, this is still a cruiser. You want to keep an eye on that adjustable angle stem so it doesn't like vibrate out of place, because there's quite a bit of weight on this handlebar up here, and then a lot of pressure if your hands are sitting right here and you're like, you know, lifting the bike up a curb or something. That can, you know, you're putting a lot of pressure on that stem. It is a quill stem too. So, you know, some of these parts to me aren't like the most trail worthy, but they've done a pretty good job overall of giving you these nice platform pedals with rubber tread here. They're not going to cut your shins if you slip off. Good positioning on that kickstand. It's not going to get in the way and cause pedal lock. It is adjustable. Again, the brakes, everything's good. This thing is rated up to 380 pounds of cargo capacity, whether you've got like a child seat on the back or bags, or you got the front basket option. That's a lot. Like the Model X and Model Y, they're only rated to 360, so you get an extra 20 pounds of capacity. Now, we do have an extra big gusset here. That's going to reduce frame flex, and just the way they've got this sort of like rectangular tubing, it's a really sturdy design. And I've got to, you know, again, I want to praise them. They've customized so much of this with the internal routing on all the cables and stuff, but they positioned the charging port for the battery up high and on the right hand side of the frame. That is awesome. So many companies either put it on the left side, including Trek, you know, which is like, they've been in the business forever. To me, that was really a surprise. A lot of their mountain bikes, you know, they don't come with kickstands like this, so you lay the bike down on its side, and when you do that, you can't get to the left hand side of the bike. Many other companies will have the charging port down low, like right here, just because it's convenient. Like that's where the battery is, I guess, and the controller. You can see all the cables and stuff coming out. Here's a little peek at the bottom. So companies will have the charging port right there on the frame, and then what happens is, you know, if you move the pedal, it can like bump and kind of maybe even crack the charging port. So kudos to Electric Bike Company putting it up high on that side of the bike. Yeah, the lock's on this side. I guess they, you know, they put one on either side, and this is a little bit tricky to get to. And frankly, that's another one of my complaints. If you are removing the battery, it's kind of a chore, especially the first time. You put this really nice key in there. It's one of those fancy like European routed designs, and you twist all the way around and you can't pull the key out. Now you need to come down here and unlock it and then pull. So you need to do this at the same time. It's really hard with one hand. You can push it this way or that way, and I'm gonna put the camera down for a second. There we go. There we go. So this is like their mid-level battery, 48 volt, 14 amp hour. But then they also have one that's like 48 volt, 11.6 amp hour, about 500 watt hours. So half a kilowatt hour is like their base model. This one's like 672 or something. And then if you get this one and you combine it with the optional front basket, just like the Model Y, they'll put in like their heavy duty battery up there, and you can get like 1400 like watt hours. That's like almost 1.5 kilowatt hours. That is incredible. It's going to give you excellent range. Frankly, hub motors aren't quite as efficient as like a mid-drive, and this one with the throttle and the high power, you could probably burn through that a little faster, especially if you're a heavier rider. So having the option to get just an enormous battery capacity is wonderful to see. And being able to remove this, even though it is kind of difficult, that's a nice feature, because you can put this in a cool, dry location when you charge it, or if you're not using the bike. And yes, you can ride the bike around without the battery. It's just going to be kind of a little bit heavier, a little bit less efficient that way. They advertise the bike as being about 57 pounds, but when I measured it, when I weighed it with the rear rack and the cup holder, it was actually 60 6 pounds. So, you know, a little bit heavier than they said. I'm trying to think of anything else. This is the single speed, by the way. Okay, so it's like 18 tooth, and it's a pretty big chainring. Single speed drivetrain is going to be clean. It's going to be quiet and simple. It doesn't add complexity up here for shifting. You've got that trigger throttle, but they do also have a 7-speed, and it's a Shimano Altus derailleur, 14 to 28 tooth cassette, or probably freewheel. That's kind of basic. It's just sort of gets the job done, but I still would prefer to get that myself. I mentioned the price point up here before. It's, you know, $21.99, but you also still have to pay $189 shipping. And then, you know, when you're on their website, it's real easy to get some extra accessories and start buying stuff. And so the price can go up a little bit, but I think for the base, you know, bike itself, that's still a pretty decent price point. They have excellent customer service. They ship this to you like ready to ride. And again, I think it's really well thought out. So this is another option. They have a little Bluetooth speaker that's waterproof, and you can kind of put it up on the handlebars. This is the charger, which they've done a great job with as well. It feels more durable. It's got the fuses right here, and it's got a multi-prong interface, so it's just a little bit more reliable. 3.5 to 4 amps. That's a lot faster. And I was curious what it would be like if you did have the dual battery setup. So I asked them, and they said, unfortunately, you have to use 2 chargers. So there would be a charging port like right here. The rack interface bolts to the front of the frame, which is very sturdy. It's an excellent position. It doesn't turn when you steer the bike. It won't dump out. But, you know, there's a little bit of extra wiring going on, and then the battery is at the bottom of the basket. So you'd plug one in there, and then you'd plug the bike in there. So you could charge them simultaneously if you have 2 chargers, but you'd have to order a second charger. So I've gone ahead and, you know, put the charger back in these bags here. Just bring that over and buckle it up. And there really are so many options with that MIC interface there, where you can get like a cool basket or the child seats and stuff. So I think that's a pretty good overview of the bike itself. Again, to me, it feels a little bit small, but I'm someone who wants that full leg extension. I'm usually not just scooting around with the throttle. Actually, on this bike, I kind of do that because it's fun, but most of the time I'm getting a bike that's a little bit more sporty, and I'm getting those full leg extensions and stuff. So when I look at this and I think like rugged and trail worthy, I'm like, I wouldn't choose that bike for the trails that I ride on. But for what it is, it's one of the most capable, you know, powerful and well done cruisers that you can customize, and the suspension really does add some comfort, and the tires are really nice and stuff. So yeah, why don't we jump into the display panel next? So I moved us over into the shade a bit because this display, while it's big and its color, it's not the brightest actually, and you can kind of swivel this thing to try to get rid of the glare. We've got a little bit of glare today. I'm going to boot this up, and then I'm going to immediately go into the settings, because you have to hold up and down like within a few seconds of turning it on to get those. And I just want to show you what that's like. So we press power, you get the menu, we hold up and down, and then there we go, we're into the settings. And these are a little bit confusing, like each letter, P1, 2, 3, 4, they each correspond to a different setting, and it's not as user-friendly in that sense, but I do have a list of those back at the website, and I might do an overlay here to try to help you. There are a few that are really relevant, whether it's the units or the wheel size, stuff like that you might adjust. You can even adjust the top speed, and this can go a little bit faster if you're someone who wants to hot rod around and maybe go up to 25 miles per hour. So to get out of that menu, I hold the power button, and this is what the default readout looks like. We have a battery charge level indicator with 4 dots. Each dot represents 25% capacity, so it would be kind of nice if there were like 10 dots, so you get 10% increments, or even a battery percentage readout. We've got voltage though, which is kind of cool. You can learn to read that over time. And then we've got ambient temperature, 51 degrees Fahrenheit, pedal assist. Right now it says off, which is interesting. That's how it boots up by default, and this confuses a lot of people. So by default, you've just got the throttle, and you can zip around like it's a moped or something, but pedaling is not going to activate that sensor. To turn pedal assist on, you have to hold the down arrow for a second. Okay, and there we go. So pass off disappeared. So now pedal assist is going to work. We can arrow down once to 0, and then that's interesting because, you know, the throttle isn't working. We press the trigger throttle, pedal assist isn't working. So, you know, why would you do that? It's so you can have the lights. So I'm going to hold the up arrow for a second here. We got the light icon, and then there they are. There's those beautiful triple LED rear lights, as well as that optional rack mounted light, and it does come with the rack, so that's nice. Then we have this really bright 2 LED headlight. It does a great job. It's got a reflector built in. I like the lights that they chose. So back here, we've got a bunch of other readouts here: time, distance, trip time, odometer, and then we've got the current speed right there. It's in miles per hour. You can change that to kilometers if you want with the settings like we talked about before. And then if we tap the power button, we get average speed, max speed, and then back to just the current speed. So this is a cool display for a bunch of reasons. It does give you access to the settings like we just talked about, but it also has a USB port over here, so that's really great. Like if you're using the water resistant like Bluetooth speaker, or maybe you've got your phone mounted up here, or you got some Christmas lights or additional stuff, this is another cool option they have. It's like a little bell with another blinking light. These guys they really go nuts with the accessories, and you can just accessorize this to your heart's content, including all the colors we talked about. It makes it a lot of fun. And for me, again, this is like a perfect bike for this kind of setting. You're out and about, you're hanging out with your friends, you're going to be able to keep up with each other, have some fun. The bike's going to support that extra weight if you're someone who's carrying cargo, or maybe you're trying to lose some weight, or you're just a bigger person. The only thing, again, is that it's just kind of a small medium frame versus a medium large. Keep that in mind. I think we've gone through just about everything here. I'm going to stow that kickstand and do a little bit of riding. I might start out with level 1 and just do the throttle. It really, besides the vibrating cup holder here, it actually feels really smooth for a gravel path. Now we are limited in how fast and how much power we have access to because we are in level 1 assist. If we want to go maybe up this hill or go a little bit faster, we're going to have to use the button pad, take it all the way up to 5. Now let's try it again. Oh boy, climbed right up, no problem. And again, I only weigh 135 pounds, so your mileage may vary, but yeah, we're floating across the grass just fine. We're not sinking in. It's feeling pretty comfortable. Whoa boy. And then oh, look at that. We went through some mud. And we're having fun now. They do have a bunch of cool fender options and stuff for their bikes as well, some of that. And I actually didn't get much dirt on my back because the rack, took some of that. You can see the dirt right there in the mud. The fenders that you have access to with the Model R are different though. They're kind of these like plastic, mud guard kind of things. They're not as, they don't hug the tire as closely, and I think a lot of that's because you got that suspension fork up there, so they don't think they look as nice or work quite as well. They might vibrate around a little bit more too, and again, that's kind of a trail fender. That's what a lot of mountain bikers and stuff use, and these days people will just get the little plastic mini fender, or maybe even one that zip ties to the bottom of the frame. This is a wider main tube, so again, I'm okay. I got a little bit of mud on myself, but keep that in mind if you're out there having fun, what could happen, and you could end up getting a little bit wet. One of the other cool features that the company offers is this little alarm mechanism, and it works pretty well actually. So, if you press the lock button, it lets you know, okay, the bike is locked, and then you could walk away from it. Presumably you've already, locked it to a bike rack or something like that, and you leave. And then if someone comes over and they start moving it, like I just did, it gives you that warning. Okay, we left it stable so then it calms down. But if they try to ride off with it, oh, there we go. We've activated it. And now we need to unlock it to turn that off. So that's kind of cool. It's actually, this one seems a bit quieter than the other ones I've tested out. I'm not sure exactly where it is on the frame, but that's still just a little upgrade to protect your bike, and makes it kind of fun, like a little car or something. Something that's interesting and kind of rare about this suspension fork is that because it's using these plus size wider tires, they actually went with boost hub spacing. So instead of 100 millimeters, it's 110, a little bit wider. It gives the spokes a sturdier bracing angle, and it just allows for the wider tire to have good clearance. But they're still just using a 9 millimeter quick release skewer. It's not like a through axle that would be thicker and heavier duty. Again, for a bike that's mostly cruiser, that's kind of fine. But for actual trail use and stuff, if you really want that rigid, solid feel, a through axle would have been nicer. In the rear, we have like a 12mm axle, and it's got a little torque washer, and you can see the dropout right here. This is a hydroformed aluminum alloy frame. The only thing that I noticed being steel is that handlebar. Okay, I turned off the lights so you wouldn't be blinded. Up here we have a 56-tooth steel chainring with this nice aluminum alloy guard. It's not a full guide, so the chain could still skip off inward, but that's very unlikely if you go with the single speed setup. 18-tooth sprocket in the rear. I would personally pay the extra money to get the 7-speed derailleur. It's only 14 to 28 tooth, but it uses Shimano Altus, which is one step up from kind of the entry-level part. It's decent. It's good for like a cruiser kind of a bike like this. And then down here is that 12-magnet sealed cadence sensor. I like that. That's a great choice. As I pedal along, I'm going to do this in the highest level of assist so you can see how quickly it responds. And you're going to be getting the loudest motor experience and just the most power because of level 5. So this is just sort of like, you know, top end. One thing I do want to point out is you see there's like a bolt cover, and then you've got this like motor power cable. There is a quick disconnect point down here, but if you don't have bags or something, you lay the bike down, that's a vulnerable part. So just be careful with that so it doesn't get snagged. It could damage the motor basically, and that's no fun. Quite powerful and satisfying, but it is kind of difficult to start, you know, for me especially. Like I'm not getting full leg extension, my knees are sensitive, and I'm just trying to get the bike going. On flats it's not so bad, you can kick the bike off and get going, but that's why I like the throttle so much. You can just, you know, ease into it. It is a variable speed throttle, so you can just kind of do that gently. I wish that the throttle was not limited by the power assist. I wish that in level 1 you could get full power on the throttle so you could get started easier and you could get some extra speed or climb a hill more easily without having to press buttons and then be in the highest level of assist. I have given that feedback to the company, and some of these companies it's like, you know, well, maybe it's a safety feature, or hey, you can unlock that in the settings. For me, it'd be nice if that was the default. Well, guys, I think that's about it. That's my take on the Model R. I spent a bunch of time with this and the Model Y. I think I prefer the Model Y for the type of riding I would be doing. It was a little bit more adjustable, a bit more affordable, and I like the fenders on that one. For me, this is still a cruiser bike. Yeah, it's a little bit better for trail and stuff, but it's really... it's still just not the platform I would use. Even with the reinforcements on the main tube and stuff, you're always going to get a little bit more flex than with like a mid-step, mixed E-frame, or a high step. So I just think this is great for someone who wants the potential for that really big battery, or they love the aesthetic of this frame with the integrated battery. I love what they've done with where they've put the charging ports, and they've still got all the accessories and stuff. Yeah, just you've got extra power here. You've got the potential to upgrade the drivetrain. It's an interesting bike, and I'd love to hear what you think or feedback if you've bought this bike. Back at the site, electricbikereview.com, you can actually select each of these bikes. I've reviewed all of them, and there's like a cool comparison tool, so you can see the stats, the price, and you can really scrutinize, or you can check out the forums. I have a special area for Electric Bike Company, and you can get feedback from other people. We do our best to keep that as like transparent as possible. I love you guys. I really hope this helps. Hope you have fun out there this winter season, and we'll see you in the next one.